Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Horn Call podcast. My name is James Bolton, publications editor for the International Horn Society, and your host. I am so excited about our wonderful guest today. Radegundis Tavares is the newly elected president of the International Horn Society. He is an internationally known performer, teacher, creative person all around, and he's just got boundless enthusiasm for the horn and for horn players all over the world. And I was really interested to get his perspective on the International Horn Society, on horn playing and teaching, and especially for my own kind of selfish reasons, I wanted to ask him about Brazilian composers that have written things for the horn. So I think you're going to really enjoy our conversation today. Announcements. As you are listening to this, probably in the middle of October 2021, I hope that you have received either in print or digital copy the October 2021 issue of The Horn Call. You may notice a few different things about the cover. We're kind of trying different things, and I'm always interested in feedback from our readers. It doesn't necessarily mean that every instance of feedback is going to result in some kind of a change, but I do want to get as many perspectives as we can from all of our readers, and we're not necessarily targeting the journal towards a specific demographic of horn player. It should be something that has a little bit for everyone, something interesting, something educational, something inspiring for adult players who maybe aren't professional musicians, for students of all kinds, for professional musicians, for chamber music aficionados and enthusiasts. That's kind of a big task, I realize, just having said that. But it is truly our hope on the editorial staff that we put together a journal that has a little bit of something for everyone. So I hope that you are finding those kinds of things in the Horn Call. And if you have feedback, feel free to contact me at any time at editor@hornsociety.org. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Radegundis Tavares. First, I want to welcome you and congratulate you as the incoming president of the International Horn Society. That's very exciting.
Thank you, James. I'm very happy to be here and very excited about all this, about being the IHS president. Very honored and very excited about what's up to coming for us in the society.
Well, I think you're absolutely the right person for the job. You've done so many things in Brazil for the horn playing community there and in Latin America, and you've hosted an International Horn Symposium. I think you've got all the right experience and the passion and the energy, which is certainly something that being a president of an organization like the IHS is going to take, having enthusiasm, which I can tell, you're very enthusiastic. For those of our listeners who may not know who you are or may have heard your name since you've been on the advisory council and you did host an International Horn Symposium, but for people who might not know, what your professional affiliations are, maybe talk about where you teach and the other kinds of professional activities you do.
Yes, I'm horn professor here at the Federal University of Rio Grande do Norte in Natal, Brazil. I've been teaching here since 2008 when I started this full-time position. Here in Brazil, most positions in universities, they demand you to be exclusively in this position. You can't be hired, for example, as an orchestral player as well. Okay. You can do extra sometime, but not all the time. Mm-hmm. So that's basically my main job, what I do most regularly. I also usually play as soloist with orchestral ensembles or wind ensembles, and a lot of chamber music, both in the university and outside. Today I have been doing since, I don't know, maybe especially 6 or 7 years, ago, I started to work more with research about horn teaching, and especially because I was starting to study to practice popular music, Brazilian popular music, and then I started to practice improvisation, and then I wanted to know how to get what I like the most from this experience to my teaching, my daily teaching. So I started to research about it, and so I would say my main thing is to teach, then to play, and then to research. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I think you've done some presentations about incorporating improvisation and popular melodies into like a horn warm up and a horn routine, which I think the more of that we can have, the better.
Yes, and especially for us here in Brazil, because basically everything we use to teach the horn are international methods or studies. And then it's very common to have a horn player that doesn't know how to play Brazilian music, especially Brazilian popular music. And it's important to say popular music because we have a very strong Brazilian contemporary music, more attached to classical music. And then the popular music that is really diverse and everything. The Brazilian classical music is more common to have in our for our students to play, although we could do more of that too. But popular music, is really unusual, and it's been changing, but we still have a lot to do about it.
So is the typical, so when a student comes to the university to study with you, are they typically 17 or 18 years old, and then they study for 4 years or something, and similar to the United States?
Yes, here at my university we have what we call the technical course. It's like a conservatoire course, but it's only 3 years. It's a little bit different from conservatoires in Europe. Then we have the bachelor degree, that's a 4-year course, and then we have the master degree. We still don't offer the doctorate here, but we plan to do it. And yes, so they usually come here like 17, 18 years old for the bachelor degree. But for the technical course, they can start a little bit earlier with when they are like 15 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And yes, so in the bachelor degree, we have now the popular music course for horn players and the classical music course for horn players. So they can choose, when they apply.
Oh, that's really cool. I like that idea. That's something I think more universities worldwide could be engaged with, is acknowledging popular music. And I mean, because that's, you can make a really good living being a popular musician, far better than you can being a classical musician.
Yeah.
But well, that's good to hear. I want to talk a little bit about, so obviously being the IHS president is a very important position, and people who may not have heard of you before are gonna now know your face and know your name. But you've been doing this a long time. You've organized so many horn-related events in Latin America, in Brazil, and you've built, we were talking before we started recording, you've built this amazing community of Brazilian horn players. Could you talk a little bit about how you came to be an IHS member, and then what that process was like of you becoming more and more involved with the IHS to now where you're the president of the society?
Yeah, my father was a trombonist, Brazilian trombonist, and he did many things with the ITA, the International Trombone Association. He actually studied in the US. So he knew about all this association thing, right? Then when he came to Brazil in the early 90s, I started the Brazilian Trombone Association. So I grew up listening him talking about it and playing. I actually attended some events, and then I always had this dream, to get involved with IHS somehow, to become a member, to go to a symposium, and it happened for the first time in 2013 in Memphis. It was my first symposium, So I became a member. I went there, and it's really something. It was really something incredible for me, to see all those horn players, incredible horn players, and instruments. For us, it's really difficult to have access to instruments, materials, everything. Scores, very expensive for us in Brazil and in Latin America in general, I would say. But I spent a lot of time trying instruments and mouthpieces and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And but the most important thing was to be together with people,
Yes.
And Marcus Bona, that have been in the society for many, many years, he was there, and we talked a lot about what we could do for similar in Brazil, right? An association in Brazil, for example. And it was a great motivation for a process that started in the same year, in 2013. That was when we started to talk about creating the Brazilian Horn Association. Mm-hmm. So to be there at the symposium was a great, motivation for us to continue to do the same here in Brazil. And it's important to say that in Brazil, we had an association created before when Bauman, I think, was the president of the IJS, Herman Bauman. And he came to Brazil, I think, at that time. But I think especially because of the distance problems. And at that time, we didn't have all these internet tools and everything. So it didn't really move forward. People really didn't move forward with it. But yeah, so my involvement with IJS started in 2013. And then at the same year, we created the Brazilian Horn Association, and we started to talk about doing a symposium here in Brazil. And my university was very supportive to all those ideas, so they helped us create the Brazilian Horn Association. We hosted the first and the second national meetings in Brazil, and when we started to talk to Nancy Joy about doing the symposium here, we bring the idea to the dean at the time, to the head of the department, and he was very supportive. So after that, to host a symposium is something I usually say that I had more work organizing the symposium than on my doctorate, to write the thesis and everything.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
So after that, my involvement with IJS, just increased over the years, and I love being part of IJS and be at symposiums and talk to everyone.
Yeah, and I think we're all looking forward to being able to get together in person again. So yes. I think that certainly will be something to look forward to. What would you say are some priorities you have coming in as the new IHS president? What are some things you'd like to see happen for the society, either the continuation of initiatives that were begun before and that you want to continue, or new things you'd like to see happen?
I believe since I became an advisory council member, I think there are many initiatives that I could follow closer as a council member that I think we need to continue, like all those projects to get more involvement from international community, from many countries. For example, from Brazil now we have more than 80 members, and throughout the years we used to have like 5 members. So it's a big grow, right? And then we want to do the same for as many countries as possible, and that's something that I saw Andrew Pelletier working a lot for, and Christina Macherton, and many other people. And I want to continue that. I think also you've been doing a lot of wonderful things in the horn call and with the horn call extras, bringing more. I think all our production in the society can be more international in general, and adding to what we already have. I think that's the thing, and I want to continue this work. I also think that one of the most important things we need to do now is to remember people why they get involved with an association, you know, and as it is in my message of the October Horn Call, I think the right question when someone think about becoming a member is what am I going to do with people from the association? And many times people make the question, what do I get from the association? Yeah. So we need to talk more about that, I would say, and remember people that what is an association is, to be very simple, is people that love to do something, they get together because as a collective thing, they have the power to do more, you know, to make a difference. And so to get involved with IHS or with any other associations that people might have in their own countries, states, cities, I don't know, it's something that can really help them change their community, change the way that they do things and their possibilities with anything they want to do. And it's the same with IHS. I think that becoming a member, a person can amplify all her possibilities to do things, his or her possibilities to do things, right? So I think we need to remember people about that. Why to become a member? What is an association? Of course, we need to continuing to develop our involvement with social media and with technologies and to have, for example, we were working already on the Educational Resources Committee on maybe to build up a platform or something like that to have educational videos, but not only, also performance videos and concerts and everything. Maybe for people to have everything together in one place. So I think it would be great for IHS to have that and to offer that for members, right? And yes, of course, all that to do all that is a lot of work. So and who are the people who does this work? People that are members. You know, for example, I'm not paid to be president. So what I do is for love. And then as much people we have with this spirit, I think more things we can do. So now, by remembering people why to get involved with an association, I think we can improve all these initiatives. Yeah.
No, that's I think that's a very admirable goal, and I think we're moving in the right direction. You know, things. I'm sure you know this, working at a university, things kind of change slowly sometimes. It takes a lot of time to, you know, come to an idea, and everybody has their say, and you have a committee and more than one committee. But I think you know, you have to do that so that it's not just one person's idea, because it is an association, like you said. It has to be the work of many people and the input of many people. So I would just tell people, you know, there's people who care about the society who've told me, oh, you know, we have to do this and this needs to happen. And I agree. And, you know, it takes some time to work those ideas out so that, you know, we can do it in the most beneficial way possible. Now you mentioned music education, and that's something I kind of want to come around to, is talking about, you know, how students come up in Brazil. You know, do they play in a band usually, or an orchestra when they're, you know, in 10, 12, 13 years old, and then kind of work their way up to the university?
Yes, they usually start in a musical band. We usually call a musical band here in Brazil. And many people for the country, you know, we also have musical bands in capitals, but many people for the country. And they usually start very early, like you said, like 10, 11, or 12 years old. And here at UFRN, at my university, we have this possibility of the technical course.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great because we can have them studying with us a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So we can prepare them to do the graduation course. And then it's also part of, they usually are very young, and it's difficult to have access to materials here, to instruments and everything. Mm-hmm. That's a big that's something that makes really difficult to make our job, because when a student comes with his instrument with a hole in it and the air is leaking, then it's difficult. Yes.
Yeah.
But it has improved in these last 2 decades, for example. So it's not as bad as bad as it was, but yes, we still have a lot of difficulties. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when students come and they study at the university, when they leave, do they want to be performers or music teachers, or do they kind of put together a freelance career doing different things, or all of those kinds of stuff?
Yeah, in general, I think they want to be performers, like playing an orchestra, or and that's why popular music that we were talking about earlier is so important, because in my region, for example, in the northeast region of Brazil, we don't have many orchestras. And many of my students want to stay here. They are very attached to the family. That this is very common, I would say, in Brazil, especially here in the Northeast. So to have other possibilities to work it's good, because they love to play the horn, right? So they want to do it. But if they don't have an orchestra to play, they may find themselves doing something else if they don't have a job, right? So yes, they usually think about to work as a performer, but here it's very common to have someone working as the conductor or the leader of a musical band. Basically, every city in our state, for example, and it is a small state, every city have a musical band. And all these musical bands need professors and conductors, So that's something that people have been working with too.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So music education is a very important part of their life too, and it's something that we have been trying to change in the university. Every time we from time to time need to rebuild the course, our course. Every 4 years we need to think if the disciplines are correct and everything. So we've been changing our curriculum, to attend better these pedagogical necessities of our students. That because after doing the bachelor degree, that is focused on performance, they'll need to teach,
right?
So we need to provide to them both things. And it is not common here, unfortunately, to have a major and a minor degree. They usually have a major and that's it. So it would be great if they had a minor too and they could do music education, So yes, and to work as a freelance is something very difficult here. I would say that it is possible, in big cities like São Paulo or Rio de Janeiro, but here in Natal, for example, it's very difficult. But it's not impossible, and the cost of life here is not that much expensive as it is in São Paulo, Rio. So people sometimes manage to live that way too. Yeah, but not common.
And you mentioned having, these different, they could take a popular music course or the classical music course. How did you go about developing that? Because as you mentioned, the horn is not something you would normally associate with popular music in most places. I mean, it's true in the United States. I mean, if you look at, music videos of popular music on YouTube, it's rare that you see a horn in those. And, you talked about trying to promote the horn more as a viable option for popular musicians.
Yeah. They have these two possibilities here. In general, it is focused on Brazilian popular music, but one of the goals of the course is, of course, to show jazz, for example, and other styles from other countries, so the student can choose what you want to do. The ideal thing, I would say, although we have the two courses now, would be to have one course that show all the possibilities to the students. You know, I tried to do that first, and I think it worked okay. As I know, 4 years ago, people were thinking about a popular music course. I proposed to have the horn as one of the instruments to try this other possibility. But now, after 4 years, I think that to have one course that shows everything to the student, and then the student can choose what he wants to follow after, would be the best possibility. Because on my doctorate, I studied the popular music teaching for the horn player. And many of the methodologies that are common for the popular musician learning process can be helpful to the classical musician. Like, for example, to have more creativity, to work more creativity, to work more the perception, and collective practice in general, and this to have more of this learning process attached not only to the professor but to the more experienced musicians that are playing with you, so you can create spaces where the student will learn not only from the professor but from the more experienced improviser that is close to him. This kind of things, I think, can be very helpful for the classical music world in general. In some places, like here in Brazil and maybe in other countries, our classical music traditional learning process may be too tight. I think that they can be complementary methodologies from popular music and from classical music. So that's why I think that to have one course where the student learns basics from everything can be more effective.
No, I agree completely. And I think, at least in the United States, universities are starting to catch on to the idea of, to be a professional musician, you don't just have to know how to play your instrument well. You have to have some idea of how technology works and how social media works and how to set up a business. If you're going to be a freelancer, you're self-employed, so you have to understand some of these business skills and networking and all of those things. There's so many more things than just, learning what the fingerings are. And
exactly. And for example, for our musical world in general, classical music world, more than ever, I think that we need to learn how to promote ourselves, and not only a person like a musician, but the institutions, the orchestras, and the wind ensembles, and the brass quintets, wind quintets, and everything else. Because and I think we need to get closer to public in general, and so for us to learn that is very common to popular musicians to learn, like they are doing. They learn how to produce themselves, and how to do things for the public to get really closer to them and get involved in everything. So to have all that learned by classical musicians too, I think it would be very important for our musical world in general.
Yeah, it's something that doesn't necessarily come naturally to classical musicians, because as horn players, we play in the back of the orchestra, and we don't want to mess up. We don't want the conductor to notice us, and so it's difficult sometimes, the psychology or the mentality of, no, you want people to know who you are. You want to share what it is that you're doing, and to make people aware of all of these things going on. I was going to ask you, so when you were growing up and learning your craft as a horn player and as a musician, who were your role models, either in Brazil or Latin America or anywhere?
Yeah, first I'd say my father. He was a trombonist, but He taught me a lot of things when I started, and not only about the instrument in general, basic technical things, but how to put myself in our world, and how to to talk to people, and to make things happen. And so I would say him first. His name was Radegundis too,
Mhm.
right? After that, as a performer, I think Luis Garcia, this Brazilian horn player. He's very well known here. He played in Pai for some years.
Mhm.
He then went to Europe, and he has a wonderful career, a wonderful performer, and he's also a model that when I'm practicing, and and in general, I grew up listening, to Herman Bauman, and Barry Tocqueville, and
Mhm.
Dennis Brain a lot. Dennis Brain a lot of his playing. Yeah, I think that those were my main models as performers, especially. Yeah.
Mhm. That's great. And you've done a lot of recordings yourself. I think you have, is it three CDs?
Yes, three CDs, three solos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're all very different. You want to maybe talk a little bit about those different kinds of recording projects you've done?
Yeah. When I started practicing popular music, very few time later, I learned that it is very different to play it, and the way the muscles respond to it. Because,
Mm.
for example, accentuation, articulation, they are very maybe more intense in popular music.
Mm.
And at least for me, the resistance works, the stamina works completely different.
Mm.
But I wanted, to practice more, and try to do both things. And that's why my first two CDs have a little bit. The first one have a little bit of popular music. The second one more, and with improvisation. Uh, but I always had this idea of trying to do everything, you know.
Mm.
And for some parts it is good, for some parts it is not good. So my first CD, I thought at the time my father was still alive, and he helped me choose the repertoire. I thought that it would be important to play traditional music, because that's what I practiced my whole life, and Brazilian classical music. So I have two contemporary musics there, and virtuosistic pieces, because when I was young, I used to listen a lot of trumpet players, and Wynton Marsalis is someone that also speaks about this difference of playing classical and popular music repertoire, and how it affects everything,
Mm-hmm.
And I used to hear him a lot, especially that CD, that Carnival CD,
Uh-huh.
with
Yeah.
the Ismail in ensemble, where,
Yeah.
so that's why I recorded the Carnival of Venice, and the Flight of the Bumblebee, and so on my first CD, the piece that has more popular music kind of repertoire is the Duda Concertino,
Mm-hmm.
José Ursicino da Silva Duda Concertino. He's a very famous composer from Pernambuco. It's a state near to Rio Grande do Norte, where I live. And it has three styles that are very popular in Brazil. The first one is called Coco. The second one, Toada. And the third one, Frevo. Right? So, that's when I started to have a little bit more relation with popular music, so to speak. Yeah.
Mm.
Then my second one, it's I was in a very how can I say? My mind was blowing with a lot of things in terms of music,
Mm-hmm.
So I recorded solo pieces from our band, and then the pieces from my friends, composers that wrote popular music to me, like Júnior Andrade and Dennis Bulhões, as it is in the CD.
Mm-hmm.
And was my first experience recording with improvisation, you
Mm.
know. And after that, I wanted to get back to my, let's say, to my basis, playing classical music. And my third CD, on my third CD, I recorded all these solo pieces that I practiced that repertoire, for many years. And I just said, it's time to record, and let's move with this. Then, yes, today, I'd say that I'm more attached to classical music in general because of my work here as professor, and most of my students, of course, they want to learn classical music because of the positions in orchestras and everything. Yeah, but I still love to play popular music, especially the two of the most famous Brazilian styles, choro, like Tico and Brasileirinho, the famous Brazilian choros, and this frevo, as I said before. That's maybe the most famous, one of the most famous rhythms from the northeast of Brazil.
Yeah, like the choros of Villa-Lobos.
Oh yeah, but so what Villa-Lobos did? He used to get elements from Brazilian popular music and put that in his repertoire, in his choros, for example, right? So they have some parts that are that remember the choro style, but they are not exactly a choro.
Like an interpret or a based on it, I guess, or
yes, based on it. Yes, like Prokofiev, I think, did a lot of Russian repertoire and many others. Yeah.
Okay, so if for someone like me who is not familiar with Brazilian popular music or Brazilian classical music, what would be a good piece, like if I wanted to put something on a recital to just, we're always looking for new repertoire and composers who maybe aren't as well known. I mean, Mozart's great, but we can't play Mozart all the time. What would be some good recommendations for horn players to kind of get their start looking at Brazilian horn music?
Yeah. From the classical music side, I would say a piece that is played a lot here is called Espacius Sonoros by the composer Guerra Peixe. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a piece that is played a lot by a lot of people. Pieces by the composer Osvaldo Lacerda. He has a lot of pieces in a more classical music style. We have solo pieces like there is this composer called Claudio Santoro. He composed a lot of Fantasia Sul-America. It's like South American fantasy. He composed one for each instrument, for horn, for trumpet and violin and everything else. So his piece for horn is also very much played here.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. And from the popular music world in general, pieces are instrumental music is compositions. They are composed for flute or saxophone, but many times they are not exactly meant for one instrument. In choro, for example, it's very common to play in every instrument. You can take the songbook, and just play it. So if you want to start to know Brazilian music, any choro in general, this is a kind of repertoire very, very easy for us to play. It's many times, many compositions, it was thought for an instrument to play instead of a singer to sing. So it's very nice. Yeah.
I've got some homework to do. Definitely. I'll be looking into all those pieces. And I know you've submitted an article for the Horn Call, and I think there's room for all of, horn players love to learn about new repertoire, right? Because like I said, we can't always play the same old pieces over and over and over, even though they may be great. We're always looking for, what would be a good piece for, a student to play on a recital that's not the same old thing. So having catalogs and lists of repertoire is, I think it's always very useful.
Yeah. Yes, and then this article is exactly about creativity. Do something else, right? In my case, as I said, I love to play classical music, and to play every time I play Mozart with an orchestra or piano is something that I really love to do. But I also love for example, to improvise, you know. And this article that I made with Celso Benedito, he's the professor of the Federal University of Bahia, and is about a learning process that is very common in our musical bands. And it is based on using what the student hear, you know, when he's at home or everything, and put that together with the classical repertoire. Anything they want. And then it's very helpful, I think, especially to develop the perception and this creativity power. It is meant, he has a lot of studies that he wrote, you know, just an example, Celso, but and this article explains all this process, but it is meant to be done by memory, you know, by heart. So the ideal is for a person to start, for example, playing a rock song that the person loves, and then put together with Mozart horn concerto, for example, based on the same notes or the same harmony, or, you know, and just to create, to play. So it can break. It can also help us to break this bad sensation we may have when we go to the stage, you know, and also it may help us to get closer to the public, you know, to be more free to speak and to laugh when we are presenting a recital. It doesn't have to be like a funeral. It can be like a very happy moment. So I think this methodology that we talk about, that we wrote about in the article, can help a lot to develop this other side that is not commonly developed, I think, in our traditional way to learn. Yeah.
No, I think that's a wonderful idea, and I think again that's something we can all use more of, is more fun. Yes, absolutely. Well, Radegundis, thank you so much for speaking with me today. For maybe people in Brazil who maybe English might not be their first language, is there anything you'd like to say in Portuguese to encourage Brazilian listeners to read the horn call and support the IHS?
Yes. So I say, queridos amigos brasileiros, colegas trompistas, acho que é muito importante hoje estarmos mais presentes na IHS. Para quem não conhece a associação, eu os convido a conhecer a Horn Call, como o James falou. O James é o editor. É uma revista que é publicada 3 vezes ao ano e que traz um monte de informação sobre o nosso instrumento. Então, participem da IHS, tenham acesso à Horn Call, a todas as outras iniciativas da associação, e participem de um simpósio. Eu diria que o simpósio é a grande experiência da associação, né? Então, convido-os a participar, e é isso. Sejam bem-vindos desde já. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. No, that's wonderful.
Yes, thank you very much, James.